Hello and welcome to Unlock Potential, and I'm David Archibald. Today I have a guest, Neil MacGregor from Savills Vietnam, and we're going to discuss a little bit about how you can unlock potential in yourself as a maybe a real estate salesperson or just in general. And Neil, thank you for taking your time to come in today. I really appreciate it. Neil, Savills is worldwide, huge company, and in Vietnam, you've been here a long time. Why don't you give me a little bit update on, summarize what you do, because I think that it's pretty fascinating. There's a lot of moving parts with this property management / real estate company.
Yeah. So we're a big organization now. We have around 3,000 people in Vietnam. What makes our business particularly special here in Vietnam is that we offer a full suite of services, as would be offered in any other part of the world. And that allows us to cover every sector of the market. So it might be office, it might be industrial, might be retail, hotels. And that makes my job very interesting as well, in that I might be meeting an office landlord, and then I'll go into a meeting with an industrial park developer. I might then meet a casino developer, all in the course of a single day. So it's fascinating from that perspective. We've grown very rapidly, largely off the back of our property management business. Okay. We now have about 130 buildings under management nationwide. Wow. But that has a certain skill set associated with it, and then we have our sales teams and our agency teams who are all very different in terms of their mindset and their approach to work. So it is a fascinating company with that broad range of services, very broad range of clients, and a very broad range of employees as a result as well.
Yeah, correct. How many years have you been here doing that?
I've been here 24 years.
24 years in Vietnam.
So I arrived in April 2001, so 24 years nearly to the day. And our business is 30 years old this year.
Oh, wow, okay.
So big year for us. There's a lot of businesses celebrating their 30 years.
Yeah, correct, yes.
We're delighted to be part of that early cohort.
Wow, 30 years ago. Yeah. So after the economic opening of Vietnam, then Savills moved right in away. Wow,
we had our first office in Hanoi in 1995.
Wow.
When I arrived in 2001, there were about 25 people in the business, and we've grown it to 3,000 today.
3,000, wow, that's amazing. For me, I only have a few departments and I have, different locations. And to me, I feel it's a lot of moving parts, but you have truly a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
How is it that someone on your team gets noticed by you? We have 3,000 people, and you have some people trying to get your attention. What do you see in somebody that you go, oh, I think this person's got something?
I think the confidence to be able to take responsibility on themselves in a large organization like ours, particularly where we might have clients who are using multiple service lines. It's very important that individuals can take on responsibility with those clients as an individual and be prepared to take on any responsibility that comes with the role. Once they've done that, then the trust sets in. Yeah. Trust from my side, and then there's a mutual trust that follows. And once that trust is established, it's extremely powerful in terms of next steps, both in terms of our own organization with their peers, with the management, but crucially with the clients themselves.
Correct, yes. I see that there are a lot of industries where maybe there's only one or two steps in your career path before you kind of tap out in that job. Yeah. But I see for the average person that works at Savills, man, there's pretty much unlimited options there to move up throughout the the different departments and things like that. Do you feel that, are you like me at this company here where I primarily grow up all my people in the system, or are you able to hire outside people for management jobs? Or
so career development is a big focus for us. It's not easy to hire good people, people with experience in our services. So we do try to develop from within. We try to demonstrate that there is a full career path within Savills. We have a bit of a reputation in the market as being the university for real estate. We have a huge alumni network, and we hold regular alumni events.
Oh, wow.
Because people associate their early career journey with Savills, and what they learned and what got them to where they are today was often from a grounding with us. So we have this fantastic network across all of the major developers of ex-employees.
Oh, okay.
We keep in
that makes
regular
sense.
contact.
That makes sense. I see that Savills is like the premium supplier for the things you do, especially in property management. And I could see how, people would want to be a part of Savills because you guys are really the most professional that I've seen, at least in what you're doing. Yeah. And I feel that that would be a really strong magnetic pull to somebody that was trying to get their career going and to learn something.
We put a lot of focus on the employer branding. Mm-hmm. And that's primarily aimed towards the employees and recruitment. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are at the higher end of the market, and that's our key focus. But it's not all about that. We could be at the lower end of the market and still have a strong, reputable brand. Mm-hmm. But it's making sure people in the industry have that connection with the brand, and we are hopefully seen as a good employer and an employer of choice.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I can see that. And I've had interaction with several of your staff over the years where they've approached me saying, "Hey, do you need any retail space or whatever?" And I was considerably impressed a lot by how they held themselves and the way they solicited me. And of course, I'm always looking for really good salespeople too. And I'm like, man, I wish
a salesperson will always spot a good salesperson.
I wish I could get her to come work at my company. But that's pretty good. So, what kind of training program do you provide? And I'm sure this is going to vary from somebody that trims trees maybe in your versus someone that's selling.
So we have a very deep training program on the property management side. We've recently taken that online. So we have a full online training system where we can see the level of engagement we're getting from employees who might be working on a property in Bin Dung. They could be located anywhere, but we can see which training they're interacting with. We have quizzes, no serious exams or tests, but quizzes to test their knowledge. And we can see the results of all of that online. So that's for property management and provides a very comprehensive set of training. We also have introduced leadership training as well for senior managers or talents that we can see can move up the organization in a rapid manner.
What are the qualities of someone that you see that you say, okay, I want to put them in this type of program?
Ambitious. I've seen huge value out of empowering talented individuals, which can be empowering them to reach out to clients themselves. It can be empowering them with their own P&L. It can be empowering them with their own team from perhaps a younger age, an earlier stage of their career. So empowerment, I think, can quickly identify the real talents in the organization because they will step up. And that's been very effective.
Yeah, that's really good. I think there's so many things you can empower people on. And when you do empower somebody and say, I'm going to give you this responsibility, you know, do you tell them? Or do you just kind of say, hey, do this and then watch and see? Or
it depends on the individual.
Okay.
Some need clear goals, and you'll sit down with them and give them those clear goals. Others will identify what those goals should be themselves.
Okay.
And sometimes it's better to let somebody take that journey.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yes, it's better to.
Can you share an example where maybe you empowered somebody and they wowed you?
So on the relaunch of our residential sales at the moment, we revisited a previous sales director that had worked for us in the past. The residential sales industry in Vietnam has been through huge challenges. And he'd been out and worked for various developers, some other agencies. And I said to him, look, come back with a plan. How can Savills be the dominant agency again, as we were in the past? Yes, it's a challenging market, but come back with a plan. And he did it. And he put his hand up and said, I want this role.
Wow.
I want Savills to be the leader, and I want to be the leader of that team. And he came back with a fantastic business plan, which we've gone ahead and implemented.
Wow, that's awesome.
And we're ready to take on the challenges of the current market.
Yeah.
So that's a great example, not just of somebody accepting the challenge, but of somebody returning to Savills,
Yes.
having been with us in the past.
You know, I see that if people or staff, or you look at yourself, that you're truly there to solve a problem. And then, you know, for us as leaders, that's what we have staff for, is to solve these issues that we have that can help us get to where the goals are. And I think that if people really understood that, hey, you know, if they looked at it as what problems are here and how can I solve them? And here's a plan how I feel I could solve that, you know, that would be pretty refreshing.
If only they
right?
weren't always knocking on the door with a problem.
Well, correct. And
I coming with some solutions as well is good sometimes.
You know,
but,
I've talked about, I do the 1-3-1 rule with that. Say, you give me the problem, but you give me 3 possible solutions and what your solution is to this. And once you start to enforce that, people don't come to your door anymore.
Yeah.
But I got a new problem, boss. You know, they're so excited to bring you a new problem. It's like, oh wow, that's good stuff. How does mentorship fit into what you have going on there?
We don't have a specific program, but we encourage particular leaders in the business to take on that role. Take, for example, the project management side. So you've got remote projects. A lot of the staff are not having day-to-day engagement with head office. They need to be mentored on site in that remote location to a Savills standard, but for them to feel that they're part of the greater Savills network family. We call them civilians. So
that's good.
So making them feel that they are a civilian and they have the support network, even though they're in that remote location. That's one example of where mentorship is very real on a day-to-day basis.
For sure. What advice could you give a new young real estate salesperson, someone working for the rebrand of the, you know, how they could unlock the potential that they may have?
Yeah. With real estate, what makes it different as an industry is that it's a physical product that you can touch, you can feel, not dissimilar to motorbikes.
Yes.
And it's to develop a real passion and to recognize that they have that unique product. They're not sitting in an office trading pieces of paper, filling in forms,
Correct.
whatever it might be. They have a physical product that they can be passionate about. And if they're passionate about what they're selling or leasing or providing consultancy on, then that will brush off on the client, the buyer, the tenant, whoever it might be, and that passion will show through.
Enthusiasm in the product, really, and enthusiasm is contagious.
The most enthusiastic, passionate sales agents tend to be the best.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's no different than motorcycle sales too.
Yeah.
How does somebody get enthusiastic about a building?
Yeah. Good question. We have fantastic tools at our in our marketing teams. For example, the collaterals we create. We create best-in-class photography. We have the tools to create interactive show suites online. We work with the best developers, and we make sure we have access to the best stock in the market.
Yeah.
So for somebody that's in real estate, you want to be selling the best, and when you can get that sense that the stock that you have access to is truly the best in the marketplace, then they're going to be that bit more passionate.
Yes. I use that analogy of if you're a salesman and you're selling a Toyota versus selling maybe a Renault, right? I mean, it's hard to be super passionate about something that deep down isn't that good, and that really affects things.
And we're lucky to be in that position that we have. That's the stock that we sell.
Yes, no doubt, and there's no doubt there's some amazing buildings and office spaces that are here, and it just keeps getting nicer and nicer.
The facilities on offer at a lot of these projects that we sell or manage are truly world class.
Yes,
now.
for
Swimming
sure.
pools, a number of different facilities on offer at some of these apartment projects is incredible. And that's
that's
the
really
joy of our role operating at
that's
that
really,
higher end of the market.
That's really good. Now, how do you build resiliency in your sales teams? Being in this market, I think this market is much different than a lot of other places in the world, because there's an element of not quite up to speed, or let's say, but then things are up to speed in certain sides. So how in your organization, how do you build resiliency in letdowns?
So one thing that we really focus on is making sure that we've got the support teams. So we have what we believe is best-in-class marketing teams. We have in-house legal counsel able to advise on the legality of projects and answer any questions that buyers may have. We have great IT teams supporting CRM systems and such like. So ensuring that support is there and that management support is there when needed as well allows for failure and allows for people to bounce back in the knowledge that support is behind them. So I think that builds the resilience that's needed. It is an incredibly tough real estate market out there. It's incredibly competitive. Until recently, there is a new brokerage law in place now, but until recently it was largely unregulated. So for our individual agents, it was a tough environment to work in.
Correct.
Some of the new regulation is going to really help in that regard.
That's good.
And we're in a position where we can comply with that regulation, and it may take away some of the more cowboy tactics that were out there and make it a safer environment for our agents to operate in.
When I got here 9 years ago, and then I started to look for facilities to rent, and then you would get completely different numbers from every single person you talk to about the same property. And it was like, wow, this is so different than in US where you know what everybody's working from the same, but here it's
every undercutting
exactly exactly. Okay, 130 properties under management. When your team goes out to try to win a contract with one of these properties and it fails, they lose. How does that play out in your business? How do you really reflect and figure out, hey, what did we do wrong here? Do you just blow it off and look for the next?
We will analyze quite carefully. It's normally down to cost.
Yeah, it's always.
So we will analyze where we went wrong, or maybe we didn't go wrong and our competitor took it on at a price that isn't sustainable. But we will get to the bottom of it, and we'll learn from those mistakes and make the adjustments the next time around. Often it's when there's a project that is that bit different from a regular project that we might be running our numbers on, and we may have missed something that the competitor had picked up on. But sometimes there is a limit in terms of the margins. And we will let projects go if the margins become too low.
Correct. Yeah. Sometimes you need to get rid of a customer every once in a while to keep things going. What is it? Is it usually always down to the price? Almost always. Or what is it that Savills does to build more value into? One
thing that we've really focused on is the supporting technology. So we have an excellent property management app that's available to all of our teams in terms of managing their own day-to-day business, and also the client-facing element, which is very popular. We've worked hard on the user interfaces, but that's really set us apart from the competition, where we have in-house development teams that continually improve it. It was built in Vietnam. We built it ourselves with our own development teams, and it's been a huge success and has now been rolled out in Singapore, in Hong Kong, Malaysia, Thailand, off the back of a product that was developed here in Vietnam. We're very proud of that.
Yeah, that's good. What do you think is the future in your industry, and how is AI going to disrupt what's going on?
You might not see receptionists in every apartment lobby in the future. At the moment, it's expected here in Vietnam. Residents like to see a receptionist, a physical receptionist. That may become a chatbot on our app.
Kiosk,
It might become a robot, but that will change in time. Then there's all kinds of things linked to sustainability. So we are working on centralized sustainability tools for measuring energy usage across all properties, water usage across all properties. So that enables us to build data pools and to ensure that underperforming properties can be corrected over time. So things like that. We have a lot of data in our business, and it's finding the tools to fully empower that data going forward.
I really feel that we're going to have all this technology and still a lack of execution. People are. We still going to need a person to execute what this is.
I think that's the beauty on the sales side that we're in, and particularly here in Vietnam, people do want that physical contact.
Correct.
Whether it's a high-end apartment or a high-end motorcycle, people want to hear from a real person, and they want to see that passion that we were talking about earlier.
That's right, exactly.
Why is that salesperson passionate about the product?
Yes.
And will that brush off on the customer as well?
One of the things I'm starting to see, I've been almost 40 years in this industry already, and I've seen that the younger people coming up are having problems communicating. they're growing up on devices and actual face-to-face, and for customers, it is going to be face-to-face mainly. Yeah. And is there anything that you've seen similar to that? And what do you think, how can we help these Gen Z or others coming up to be?
There's certainly not the same communicative culture in our head office, I would say. Sales teams are always going to be a bit different.
Correct, yeah.
But it's certainly not, we used to have famously rowdy, good social events. Mm-hmm. We still do, but they're maybe not as rowdy as they once were. We're not seeing the same social side from teams these days. We're addressing that in different ways in terms of employee engagement. So instead of a gathering for beers, it might be bringing in a speaker into the office on a given topic, and the younger generation like that sort of opportunity for engagement.
Yeah. Soft skill training and things of that nature. Now, shifting gears here, you have children.
Sorry.
20 years from now, they find this video of their dad on there. And what is it that you would like to tell your own kids about how they can unlock the potential that they have in themselves?
I think be yourself, believe in what you're passionate about, pursue that passion. The world that they are going to be growing up in is very different from the world I grew up in. Yeah. And I think pursuing that passion is going to be more important than ever. I pursued my passion, which was travel. Went on an adventure to Vietnam. I was going to stay for 2 years, and 24 years later, I'm still at it. I think find that passion and pursue it relentlessly, and you will be successful.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said about if going to work is fun. It should be. There's a story about Thomas Edison about that. His wife was like, you're working so hard. Why don't you take a week off and go do what you want to do? Yeah. And then she found him in the lab the next morning and said, hey, I thought you were going to go somewhere. And he said, this is what I want to be doing, right? This is my fun. Yeah. So I think that's incredibly important with that. Tell me about this bicycle ride you're about to get on.
Yeah, so this is an annual ride that I've taken up for Saigon Children's Charity. There's typically about 25 to 30 of us. We try to raise in excess of $50,000 each year for Saigon Children's Charity. Been on some amazing adventures in the center of Vietnam. This year we're cycling from Dalat to Phan Rang and finishing in Moi Ne. Hopefully a bit more downhill than previous years where it's been a bit taxing.
At least the road between Dalat and, that way is very beautiful ride.
Yeah, it should be largely downhill. I know there are some hills.
Be prepared. Yeah. Well, that's really...
The first day I know is going to be very hilly. I'm not as fit this year as some of the previous years I've done it.
How many years have you been doing it?
So this will be my 6th year.
6th year. Yeah. What specifically does the Saigon Children's Charity, what do they
So
do?
The reason I myself support Saigon Children's Charity and also Blue Dragon in the north of Vietnam, based out of Hanoi. Those two charities have a core focus around education. So myself and Savills, through the company, we believe that education is the most powerful tool for underprivileged children. And if we can give them access to education that they might not otherwise have access to, then it will unleash opportunities for them that they're not going to have otherwise. And there are some amazing stories of some of these kids entering employment and from day one earning what their families have been earning collectively.
Yes.
So, yeah, incredibly powerful.
Unfortunately, there is not a shortage of underprivileged children in this country. We do that with our charity work that we do during Christmas time with the Christmas Ride, where we try to help orphans and things like that. And unfortunately, it's so easy to find these people that need their help. My team and I we want to present you with 5 million Vietnam Dong for your bicycle ride.
Thank you very much.
And
That's
your
very
charity
good.
for you and taking the time to come in and talk to me today. Last question I have for you would be, when you have an up and coming star that you see that's coming up in your company, what is it that you look for and want to really help them get to the next step, get to the next level? Like what is there specific things that you look for?
So I mentioned earlier the ambition.
Yes.
I think Vietnam is spoilt in terms of people with ambition. It's something that Vietnam has somewhat uniquely.
Yes.
And to be able to empower people to really see through the full potential of that ambition that they may not be fully aware of themselves, but to help them unlock that potential
for sure.
that the ambition can deliver. We've had huge success.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
At identifying
that's
that
really
ambition and encouraging it.
Cool. All right, Neil, thank you so much for today. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching Unlock Potential with Neil MacGregor today. I will leave Neil's contact stuff in the comments or the description below. And again, thank you very much for watching and have a great day. Thanks.